Hey everyone, welcome back to the Onigiri & Co podcast. We are still filmed and I'm really happy. And today we are with Adriano, aka Mantis FPV.
Hey
Hello.
everyone, hey Noelle, thanks for having me on board today. I'm really excited.
I'm really excited too because we've been planning this for quite a bit. We were just saying before the
Yeah,
podcast.
it's been about 2.5 months, but
Yes.
unfortunately life has just gotten a bit busy for both of us, and
Yeah.
we're finally here though, so I'm super excited. Should be fun.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for coming. And even though we are a bit delayed, I told you I had a last minute thing. It's a silly thing. My dog brought a pigeon
Oh,
in the
really?
living room. I don't think she killed it, but she brought like a dead pigeon and wouldn't trade it for snacks. So we had to go on a quick walk so
Yeah,
she would forget about the pigeon. And then I had to clean all the feathers so you wouldn't see all the feathers in the background. I think there's still one there.
I
Oh
see
my
a feather
God.
on the. I was gonna say that that's a compliment to you because usually when animals bring you something, it means that they love you. So it's a good
Oh,
compliment.
all right. Well,
Yeah,
good. She gave me a gift, but that's why I was also a bit delayed
yeah.
tonight.
No, that's no worries at all.
Well, anyway, we made it happen. I'm really happy. So, usually when I have new guests on the podcast and fun story, I don't really know you that well either. So,
Correct.
I usually get them to introduce themselves as a person and as a pilot. So, whatever you prefer to say first is
Yeah,
fine.
for sure, for sure. So, hey everyone. Hey Noelle, my name's Adriano.
Hmm.
I'm co-founder of Mantis FPV. We're an FPV shop based in Sydney, Australia. Um, about me, I'm 26 years old. I've been doing Mantis FPV for the last 3 years. But besides running the shop full time, I got a few other hobbies such as basketball, playing video games, going to the gym, which is really fun. And actually, I got a weird fascination for murder mystery podcasts
Ah,
as well. So that's something I like to listen to as well, which is a bit different but super interesting for me.
yeah.
And fly FPV, of course. That's one of my other passionate hobbies, as well
Yeah.
as work, which is really cool.
Yeah, so it has become your work, and I think we'll get onto that a little bit later in this episode.
Yeah.
But I just want to say, what kind of murder mystery podcast do you listen to?
To be honest, I don't listen on Spotify. I'm actually a big YouTube murder mystery person.
Okay.
So there's a few guys based in England and America, and even one or two in Australia. So it's one of my secret things that I like to listen to, which not too
Hmm.
many people actually know about. So now I've just told everyone, which is really cool.
Yeah, well, I mainly listen to one podcast
Yeah.
before work usually, and it's called Cult Litter, and it's
Okay.
about cult and serial killers, and
Yeah.
sometimes like UFOs and weird things as well. So
Oh,
it's
it's super interesting. I think it's just the psychology of all of it and the stories.
yeah.
It gets pretty crazy with all the stories as well. So
Yes.
yeah,
Well, now you're on your first podcast.
I was going to say
Um,
this might turn into a murder mystery podcast, but no, I thought we'll be talking about FPV and I guess a bit about the shop and everything.
exactly, yes. So next time we'll do the murder mystery.
Definitely.
But today I wanted to hear about, well, actually, how you heard about FPV first. Like, the usual question: how did you get into this big hobby and community?
Yeah, for sure. So FPV, I started probably about 4 years ago. Um, I actually started with my business partner, Kelvin. So he's the
Okay.
one that introduced me to FPV. It's a bit of a debate because we actually have a good friend that's been flying FPV for many years. His name's Paul. He's basically the one that introduced Kelvin into FPV. And
Mm-hmm.
then naturally, and we'll probably talk about it more when I talk about work, but Kelvin and I hang out with each other every day. So naturally, I picked up FPV from him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that started with freestyle. So
Okay.
so I started FPV doing, freestyle, learning all the tricks of the trade. That transitioned to cinematic, which I
Mm-hmm.
did for quite a bit. And now I've settled on racing. So I'm really into FPV racing at this stage.
I
Yeah.
noticed the racing side when I was looking at, Mantis FPV Instagram. I could tell, or even in stories sometimes, I feel like you were going to races, and I didn't
Yeah.
suspect you started with freestyle, which good job, because that's more my side of the hobby.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a soft spot for freestyle because that's how I discovered the hobby too. Like at the time with Roto Riot and Oh my God,
Yeah.
doing some freestyle in Hawaii. That's what I was like, oh wow, I really want to do that. And later on, I realized there was also racing, which made sense. But
Oh,
when
it's so cool. Like all the FPV, like all the different parts of FPV, it's so interesting because they all have their own unique style and category. I think I've enjoyed all of them, but I've settled on racing because naturally I'm pretty competitive. Growing up, played a lot of sports. I think I told you I played basketball, so racing
Mm,
has that competitive side which I really like. and then also that community. So when you go to race events, everyone's there. You see good mates. It's always really fun.
Yeah, and I had good discussion with Thomas and Paul Bitmara. Surely you know them,
Oh, of
and
course,
if
yes.
if people in the audience don't know them, they are our heroes in Australia in terms of racing, FPV racing.
They're
And
nuts. They're too good.
they are very good. They are a good team. Thomas is excellent, and they don't live too far from me, so sometimes we catch up.
Oh, cool.
And at the time, they really wanted me to do more racing because they were like, it's really good to practice some patterns. It's gonna help your freestyle. They were trying to sell it to me this way, but I do think it's true. Like both ways of flying are very complementary, and it ideally should be good to do both.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
I don't know.
I was going to say, we always say racing pilots are one of the best pilots, not to offend the other racing groups, but racing guys, the strategy and the precision you need to fly at the speed, so hitting those gates,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. Like I still go to events now. I'm not even that good. I'm really slow, you know what I mean? But I see these guys, especially in Sydney, yeah, in the racing scene, they're just doing all these laps, and I'm still looking at them like, what? How do how are they doing that, So
Yeah.
it is a different world
Yeah.
altogether.
It is very impressive. And the first time I took someone to our Melbourne club, and Thomas was racing. The
Yeah,
person who was not flying FPV, or the people who didn't fly FPV, they were looking at the DVR and they were like, I can't even comprehend what I'm looking at, because they were like triple gates, and you
that's
know,
crazy.
it's even me, which I was so used to seeing flying. Every time I see the DVR of Thomas or all the fast racers around here, I'm like, wow, it's impressive how the brain can just think that fast.
Yeah.
Like,
It still surprises me. And you know what? I used to play a lot of video games, and I
mm,
thought naturally I'd be pretty good at racing because just reflex and hand-eye coordination. And
mm,
then I tried it, and I wasn't very good at the start. And even even now I'm still trying to practice and practice, but there's a big learning curve. So yeah, it is
yeah,
very challenging.
for sure. So I don't
Yeah.
remember if you said it, because sometimes I have some blanks. But how long have you been flying in total?
Yeah, actually, I'm actually about 4 years,
Oh
now. So
yeah,
FPV flying 4 years. Drones I've been flying for about, I think every drone pilot says they start off drones with the DJI drone. So,
yeah,
I'm one of those guys that started with DJI drones, um, and yeah, that naturally progressed into FPV drones. So I'm lucky to have met for Kelvin to have got that shared that sport with me, and then
mm,
also Paul sharing that with Kelvin because yeah, that Paul, he's a Sydney racer in Australia here,
mm-hmm,
um, and he shared that with Kelvin. So one day Kelvin went to a racing event locally, and
mm-hmm.
then he picked up the hobby, which is really cool. And then naturally I got involved as well. So yeah,
Cool. Well, maybe talk a little bit about this, because you said that led later to the creation of your store and everything like that. So, do you want
yeah,
to say
yeah,
a
for
bit?
sure. So Kelvin is my business partner with Mantis FPV. It's actually interesting, Kelvin and I's relationship, how we started Mantis FPV. I actually before Mantis FPV, I actually do videography and
Oh,
photography. Yeah, so prior to I met Kelvin through a different company of his called Sky Monkey. So Sky Monkey is a videography and drone service provider, in other words.
okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually met Kelvin on LinkedIn. This was maybe 2 years before Mantis, saying, "Hey, Kelvin, I'm a photographer because this is actually at an interesting time of my life. Just finished school, film school. Was working in retail for a few years, and I'm like, you know what, let's go do something that I'm passionate about, which is photography and video, and let's find a job in it. So
Mm-hmm.
connected with Kelvin on LinkedIn, said, hey, I'd love to work with you guys. Uh, Long story short, I started doing some work placement with Kelvin and Sky Monkey. Uh, I used to joke around. I used to say I was the monkey in Sky Monkey because I used to carry all the bags around and be the extra support. Change propellers and do all the stuff that, to be honest, they didn't really want to do. So I was doing all that stuff. And that just naturally built our relationship, Kelvin and I, to be with each other more and more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that was really good because I was working at Vodafone full time at that stage,
Okay.
which I enjoy sales and I enjoy working with people, but it wasn't a long term career for me. It was more for something just to do, while still finding my way in what I wanted to do. Um, and then during that, I was working with Kelvin part time, and then naturally it got busier with SkyMonkey,
Mm-hmm.
and I was lucky enough to work full time for SkyMonkey, and then leave Vodafone, which was a really exciting time because I'm like, yes, I finally can work, videography full time, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Um, and then did that for a few months, and naturally FPV started becoming really popular in the cinematic commercial world about 3 years ago. That's when it started entering into the scene.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when Kelvin noticed it during racing. We're like, hey, we can apply this doing cinematic work. Let's get a
Yeah.
GoPro on top of it, start flying, and you already see it now on Instagram. Everyone is flying, cinematic FPV,
Yes.
which is really cool. But I think we were doing it very back in the early when it was just getting really popular, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's how Kelvin got into it, and then that's actually how I got into it. So the motivation was doing it through SkyMonkey as a
Yeah.
service provider, which was
Mm-hmm.
awesome. And yeah, so that went by for a few months working. This was back in 2020, right before COVID. When was that? 2020, I think it was.
Yes. Yeah.
I can't believe how quickly time goes by. It's coming up
It
to like
does.
3 years now.
Yeah.
And it's actually really weird. So I was Kelvin and I were still building our relationship, and I was thinking in the back of my head, I'm like, it'd be awesome to own and to start an FPV shop. I was just thinking it.
Yeah.
But I wasn't going to say anything to Kelvin because I'm like, this guy's going to think I'm crazy. He's going. Why would we start an FPV shop? It's crazy. You already got so many awesome guys out there in Australia doing FPV shops. We're like, why would we do this? But I was
Mm-hmm.
just thinking that in my head. And then one day, I think just Kelvin and I have always clicked. But one day I was working on the computer and he walks right past me and he's like, hey, Adriano, do you want to start an FPV shop?
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Out of nowhere. Out
Yeah.
of nowhere. It was so bizarre.
Mm.
And instantly I looked at him. I'm like, let's do it. Off straight away within a few seconds.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, by the end of that week, we already had the business registered. And
Wow.
that was the stepping stone to basically within 2 months of that conversation between Kelvin and I, Mantis FPV, we launched our website. It's actually coming up to 3 years in 2 weeks' time. So
Wow.
June 13th, I believe, is the date that we launched officially. And
Nice.
yeah, that was right at the start of COVID as well, which was cool.
Hmm. Well, I wasn't planning on asking the question, but all of this like makes me wonder. So, what does it take to? How do you get from like, let's say we don't need to know about registering the shop because I feel like it's a little bit boring. But like, what happens between the time you register the shop, you have your website, and you get your products? Like, how do you get organized? And
Yeah. So that was actually that was a bit overwhelming because we didn't know, we've never run a retail shop before.
mm,
Kelvin and I jumped off the bat saying, let's start an FPV shop. Cool. Where do we start? Let's start with the name. So that was the first thing. So that's when we came up with Mantis FPV,
mm,
which is actually, I think you sent me a photo of a mantis, a praying mantis, and I said,
yeah,
no, it's actually based on the mantis shrimp, which is
yeah,
which
it's
is
really
a
cool.
yeah, it's a really cool underwater creature,
Hmm.
super powerful, super strong, and we thought this would be a cool, I guess, mascot, vibe for the shop.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, got some water quickly.
Fair enough. Yeah, I really like that shrimp, by the way. I knew it and I didn't know it was called this, but I knew there was a shrimp in the ocean that can like kick things and it's super fast and super powerful and it
Yeah,
does
super
hate.
strong.
It's crazy.
And yeah, and then from that we just started building the website. So every night, we sort of joked around. Sky Monkey was our 9 to 5 job,
Mm-hmm.
and Mantis FPV was our 5 to 11. So
Okay.
every night we were just building the website. Kelvin is a web developer, so he was building the website,
That's
and I
handy.
was and I was making the products.
Okay.
So we were sort of joking around saying he's building the shelves, and I'm stocking the shelves. Yeah,
That's true.
yeah. And then that took about 2 months of work, planning, talking to local pilots, seeing what products they want, and
Hmm.
eventually things started to come in, which was really cool. And yeah, we went live. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was super. It was a pretty lackluster moment because we went live. We're like, cool, we're gonna sell so much, and
Hmm.
then it was very slow, naturally as a business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me of, it's not to bring it back to me, it's just to see the parallel experience that we went through. When I first moved to Melbourne, the first job I found was Hearn's Hobbies.
Mm.
And they basically hired me because they wanted to give a go to FPV. So I also had to start their stock. So it's not really like
Oh, no way.
starting a shop by myself. That sounds impressive to me, because I know what it feels like to just be in charge of your own your own department, and you have to bring a stock, and then you have to deal with all these people. At the time I was dealing with the impulse RC. That was easy, but
Yeah.
all these camera people from Hong Kong or Shenzhen, so Fox here and Runcam, and you have minimum orders and all of this. I knew, but I didn't know. Like I was like, oh,
Same.
okay,
Yeah.
that's crazy that I have to have this amount, and maybe I need this amount, maybe I don't like it, and then you're like, I feel like they're trying to sell me this camera because there's the next one coming next month. You're like, oh, crap,
Correct.
what do I
And
do?
you know what? I feel humble because now looking back 2, 3 years ago, it's like, wow, we actually didn't know too much, and we backed ourselves, and we just jumped straight into it, you know. And
Yes.
sometimes, that saying, "Ignorance is bliss." It was actually maybe in hindsight probably good that we just jumped straight into it, because it's been a lot of work,
Yeah, yeah.
So
Sometimes it's good. Yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
and like you said, the quantities, and starting a business, we had to put, obviously a business is an investment, so Kelvin and
Yeah.
I had to invest in the business ourselves, which is not an unlimited amount of money. We had to start with something, and that we started with a bit of stock, and then naturally over the last 3 years, the stock's just grown and grown and grown, which has been really, really cool to see.
Yeah, yeah, you've done really well, and suddenly you started popping on social media. I can't really remember how I found the store. I wonder if,
When was the first time you saw us pop up?
I would say definitely. I don't know if it was 2020, because for me, 2020 and 2021 are like a big mashed year
Yeah,
of
it was a crazy,
lockdown.
yeah,
So, but I would say maybe late 2020.
yeah.
I feel also like I was talking with a few pilots, like Joseph Webb.
Joseph, yeah, yeah.
So he said something about Mantis. Does it work with you?
Joseph. It's a complicated relationship. A great relationship, by the way. He's the best. He's the best guy.
Yes.
Joseph, when he was working with us frequently on a roster,
Hmm.
but Joseph is so young and so smart. He's still in school,
Yes.
so naturally he kept getting busy and busy with school. So
Mm,
he decided to go continue, focus on his studies, which we 100% support.
yeah.
But we still see Joseph come in once every two weeks or so. So he's always
Oh,
around.
that's good.
Yeah, so
Yeah. Well,
he's not a part of the team, but he's a part of the team. Yeah,
mm,
he's always here helping out when he can.
I think that's what happened. I think oh yeah, I remember now. So fun story. That's how I discovered you. I remember I was during the pandemic, and I think it was 2021. With my job, we were already planning to bring FPV in the future,
Awesome.
but I told them, talking about cinematic, I was like, I need to test some Cinewhoop. So, and during the pandemic, somehow I got also sent a Cinewhoop by one company, and then all the companies wanted to send me stuff, but I broke stuff, and I wanted to change something because I didn't like it. It was too heavy. I was trying to improve it, and stock during the pandemic was hard to find. So I
Yeah.
was talking to Joseph, and I said, "Oh, I burnt my stack today. I mean, it was just the ESC, but I needed to change everything." And he said, "Oh, just have a look if Mantis has it." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Mantis? Who is
Who's
Mantis?"
that?
And I had a look. I'm like, "Oh, okay, website and stuff." And then
Yeah.
I looked on Instagram once I ordered, because I was quite happy. You had what I needed. I can't really exactly remember
Awesome.
what it was. I think it was a Mamba stack.
Okay.
Is that
Yeah.
possible? Yeah. So and then I saw you on Instagram, and I saw that you put your face out there as well as the owner,
Yeah.
like and you show what you do in the store, and for having opened a FPV like department in the past. I was looking in 2018 and 2019. I was looking at what other shops were doing, and
Yeah.
not many people were putting their faces out there. So it was nice, and it definitely
Thank you.
influences pilots. Like I could relate. I was like, oh, okay, that's this person, and he seems to be hardworking. And even though everybody is hardworking, but
Of
because
course.
you're in front of the camera, I'm like, oh, maybe I order more there, and
Yeah.
and yeah. So
Thank you.
it's
No,
pretty cool.
we just try to be your local community shop. You know what I mean? That's what we've always aimed for. I've like I was saying, I've always worked in retail.
Mm.
I used to work at City Beach. I don't know if you know City Beach, the
Yes.
clothing shop.
Yeah.
I worked at Platypus Shoes.
Oh
I
yeah.
worked at Vodafone. I worked at the casino. Not many people know that about me, but I used to be a games dealer for the casino.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So a lot of it has always been people and talking to people and building relationships. I think naturally, doing with Mantis FPV, it just came natural. I didn't really have to think about it, and you know, we just wanted to be, come across like we're your friends, and we are, So that's
Yeah.
why it's been really. I think that's what's been really helpful to our business and our branding as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I completely forgot about COVID as well. So that really, going back to the start, COVID actually, it was a horrible time with lockdowns and everything, but that gave us an opportunity to build on the website as well
Oh yeah.
during that
Yeah.
time. I
Yeah.
completely I forgot about it because I think we were so busy building the website and finding stock. That's actually
Mhm.
what helped, helped me get through COVID as well.
Sometimes it was like a lot of people started new things during this time because some people were able to focus on a project more because there was not much to do, or so it was
Yeah,
beneficial for some people, and it's funny that somehow it gave you time to build a website and
yeah.
stuff like that. So
We
what
took advantage of it, which was really awesome.
yeah, yes. So what type of products, and do you offer any services as well? Like what do you do at Mantis
Yeah,
FPV?
yeah. So we're an FPV shop in in Sydney, predominantly online. We started the shop as an online business, but then naturally, as the business has progressed, we've offered in-store services. So we got a shop front, which is really cool.
Hmm.
Customers can come in, touch and feel the drone, see the motor spinning, which is I think a really cool experience for people that are new to the hobby. They want to
Yeah.
come see it. And we do repairs and custom builds as well.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
and we do one-to-one lessons, and if you want to learn FPV, we can do like very bespoke courses and stuff here and there to help people transition into the world of FPV. It's really cool.
That's really cool. I think it's the first time I hear a shop doing lessons, like repairs. Some shops do, some shops don't, because it's a whole kind of different thing again.
Yeah,
Like how do you charge repairs? Like all these kind of things is always, some people don't want to get into that type of business, but lessons is pretty cool because you get the fun.
yeah. Well, what I found, like especially when we were learning FPV, myself and the guys here, it was just so hard. Like everyone, that's why everyone knows Joshua Bardwell. We saw your previous podcast. Everyone's like, God, Joshua Bardwell, he's awesome. Everyone, I think everyone that starts FPV or is
Yes.
in FPV has come across him at least once.
Yeah.
But the challenge I found learning is if you don't know anyone, if you're not flying regularly with somebody week in, week out, it's actually very hard and can be overwhelming to enter
Mm,
FPV.
that's
Um,
true.
very challenging. There's a steep learning curve, but once you get over that learning curve, that's when it becomes really fun.
Yeah.
So we're thinking, there's an opportunity here to help people get into the sport of FPV, um, and why not help them? That's
Yeah.
really it,
Totally.
and give them
That's
that
great.
experience.
Yeah. So you must have like a little team to help you out with all of this.
Yes, we've got an awesome team. So there's six of us in total,
Wow.
including
Okay.
including Joseph, which is cool. There's myself and Kelvin, who's Kelvin's actually more behind the scenes. He sits behind me on that desk over there.
Okay.
He does all our website updates, anything that you see on the website design. That's all Kelvin. So he's so good at that.
Hmm.
Can't forget about Zeph. Zeph is our FPV guru. He handles all our repairs, maintenance. He's absolutely amazing in handling all that. Anything technical, he will
Okay.
cover. He will cover. Uh, Felix, who we call him Young Apprentice, he's up and coming Zeph.
Yeah.
He's young kid. Or not young. He's 19. And he's learning the ropes from Zeph, and he's actually he's a really good all rounder. So sales and repairs.
Mm.
We've got Chris who does marketing, so he helps with a lot of our photos and video content,
Okay. Hmm.
and then myself, and I'm just a all rounder.
Yeah. You're the monkey again.
I'm the monkey again. Yes, I'm the monkey in Mantis. So I'm not an expert in one, but I'm good at all.
Yeah,
So
and it's very valuable in a team to have someone who can just fill in and do it well, well enough
yeah,
to do the job anyway, to get it done when everybody else is busy. So
correct.
it's
And we
pretty
all
good.
got our unique skill sets, and I think that's what makes us a really cool and close team.
Yeah,
Because if something needs done, we know who's sort of responsible for handling that project, and it just works really well. So I think that's helped
yeah,
a lot, to our business.
yeah. Nice. 6 people is quite decent. That's pretty good. No wonder you can do lessons and things like that. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's always busy here. Like I'm so glad that you can't see the rest of the shop because it's a mess. And prior to me jumping onto here, I had to quickly clean everything. So it's a bit chaotic here, but it's yeah, I wouldn't change it. It's awesome.
Oh yeah. Well, I feel like it's always like this. The back end of any shop is a bit like people are crazy. There's packs of props there. There's batteries there. And there's stuff, a bit
Yeah,
everywhere.
we're actually looking to move out of this place actually soon.
Mm,
In the next 4 or 5 months.
okay.
Because we're outgrowing it, which is a good problem to have, I guess.
Yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. My next question was, how do you see like the relationship? You mentioned that a little bit already, but between your store, your team, and the FPV community.
Yeah, it's a unique relationship. Actually, FPV is such a niche still, so it's a very small community, especially in Australia. So
Mm,
everyone sort of knows each other, which is really cool.
yeah,
Um, I don't know how to explain our relationship. We're a shop, so we're here to provide parts, which is the first thing we do.
yeah,
Um, but we also, I feel like we're friends with a lot of our customers, which is
mhm,
really cool. So
yeah,
a lot of customers come in here and they think it's like their second home. Sometimes I see a lot of regular customers come in. I say, I need to give you a key because you're here so often, and they say it's a second home.
yeah,
So it's really cool to have that relationship with a lot of our pilots, um,
yeah.
and yeah, I think that's what makes it really unique.
Mm. Did you have some people coming in the store and be like, "Oh my god, it's so good to see products in real life instead of having to order online because they can actually see them."
Correct. Yeah. So that's what I was saying. Like the whole touch and feel and that experience. I think
Yes.
people like FPV parts are so unique and intricate with the design and detail.
Yeah.
So when they come here, they can spin the motor, they can touch the electronics. They think it's really cool.
Yeah.
I think this adds that whole experience, that customer experience.
Yes. And I remember when we opened that little shop within the shop at Hearns Hobbies, there were people who saw it through either my YouTube or they saw on the website that it was being open, and that's what they said. They arrived and they saw the counter with behind the glass all the new products, and they were
Yeah,
like, "Oh my god, no! It's gonna be so much harder to not buy things than when
I
it's
know.
online."
I know, and I hear that so often as well. Guys come in, they're saying, what do I need, or what do I want?" I said,
Yes.
it's not what you need, it's what do you want, So they say, "Adrian, you can't keep me here. I'm going to keep buying stuff." I'm like, "It's all right, if you need it, it's important,
Yeah, yes, yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
but I was going to say, I feel like it's very welcoming for newcomers, especially from the DJI background.
Mhm.
We tend to just have a lot of chats with guys coming in, just curious to know what FPV drones are. Whether
Yeah.
it's like seeing guys on social media, they're like, "Oh, this looks really cool. I just want to see," or "Hey, I'm just a DJI pilot. What's FPV drones?" So most of the time we actually have good chats with customers here, just talking about FPV, and
Hmm.
we have the simulator set up in the back as well.
Oh, that's
So
super cool.
yeah, so they say to us, "We got it. I know how to fly DJI drones." I said, "Forget what you know about DJI drones. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I don't care how long you've been flying DJI drones. Come try this simulator." And they jump on and they crash straight away. I said, "This is
Mm.
FPV.
Mm.
So it's just a way for them to experience it, and 9 times out of 10, they love it, which is really
Yeah.
cool.
That's good. That's
Yeah,
good. It's nice to bring new tool to people who either love flying or video. Like you said, you have a video background as well. Like a imagery background. And I remember this guy who has a big YouTube channel. He's Australian. He does lots of travel videos.
yeah.
He's Melbourne based. He's called Ben TK, and he's a friend now.
Oh, awesome.
And at the time, he showed up one day and he was like, so different than all the people I used to see at my hobby store, who are, let's say it, like me and maybe you, a bit nerds, and and then
We're
this
all a bit nerdy.
we're all a bit nerdy, and it shows, and this guy shows up, and he looked like a backpacker, but the one that goes to Bali and to India, and he's like, I'm looking for a FPV drone. And I said, yeah, no worries, you're at the right place. And he's like, I want to build it myself. And so at the time, I don't remember, he was not really on a budget, which was really rare as well for first
Yeah.
time people. He was like, yep, he got like so many, he got like Crossfire straight away, whereas some
Oh
people were
wow.
still using, the FR
The
Sky,
fast guy.
or even like what's the orange one? I keep forgetting this one.
Tyrannus
Spectrum.
Spectrum.
Spectrum. And he was like, yeah, no worries, give me this, what's the best radio, give me this. And then he went home, built the drone by himself, brought it back, and was like, I don't understand what's happening, can you explain to me so I can fix it at home? And I was like,
Yeah.
yep, no worries. And he did all the steps, and he did his maiden next to me, and then did it all. And now he's still video creator, like content creator, and he flies FPV as a tool.
That's
And
awesome. And
it's
you made
so
friends with
good.
them too. Like, and that's what I find. Like, a lot of our customers become really really good friends of ours, and then I think because we share that common interest of FPV drones and then
Yeah.
imagery, you
Yes.
meet a lot of cool guys, and then you become good friends.
Yes.
I had a customer here actually. He walked in. We served him his and cool. He bought his first drone, which was awesome. We got him up and running. He comes back a week later because when you're especially when you're in that early stage, you tend to come visit more often because you have
Mm.
questions and everything like that. He
Mm-hmm.
walked in and I'm like, "Hey, David, nice to see you." And he's like, "You remembered my name?" I said,
Oh.
"Yeah." I said, "Of course." I said, "You took the time last week to come out. You came to our shop. We had a good chat. Of course, I remember your name because it's such a small community, which is really cool."
Yeah.
And I think
Yes.
that's just one example, but I think that's just that nature that people really like, and it builds that relationship up as well
Yeah.
as they learn FPV.
Yeah. It feels like your store is not. I'm not saying other store. I feel like all stores in Australia are a little bit like this. It's not just transactional. It's really about bringing something different to the community. So,
Yeah,
what
and
do you think a store should bring to the community?
yeah, that's a good question because in its most it's actually really curious a good question because in its most simplistic form, we're really just a shop. We bring parts in and we provide it to the customers.
Hmm.
But I think what's made us really, especially help with branding, is just having that local community vibes, and becoming good friends with a lot of the pilots. I think that's really helped a lot.
Yeah.
Um, Shops and shout out to all the shops out there. Having an FPV shop is not easy. There's a lot of work, a lot of challenges every day, and everyone has done a really good job. And I think shops help keep the culture going. You know,
Hmm. Yeah.
with branding and bringing in new parts and new supplies,
Yeah.
running local events and race events, and shout out to Zach in Rising Sun in Queensland. He's
Hmm.
he's hosting the AU FPV Nationals for Australia this year in
Wow.
Townsville. So that's just one example of shops doing a really good job for the local community and keeping up the enthusiasm and vibe. So
Hmm.
um, I think, especially for us, our goal is to continue bringing fresh parts in,
Hmm.
support the local pilots, and keep growing the sport of FPV. I think it's such a great sport. For me personally,
Yeah.
it's got me through some tougher times in my life as a way to express myself, which is I think everyone should have something like that to help them.
Yeah.
And I'd love to just keep give that to someone else. You know.
Hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I think on a shop level, there's that, but I think it goes a lot deeper, which is really
Yeah.
cool.
Definitely, yeah. It's nice to see, like you said, like what you described, the way you talk about your team and your clients, which are more like friends.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's very good to have this attached to something that could be purely capitalist, and it's not. At the end of the day, it's full of connections and yeah,
Oh,
human connections.
there's real relationships formed on where of course we are a business and we got to pay. Living in Sydney is not cheap. We got to pay rent and I got to pay a mortgage and live. But um, if you can add value in other ways to pilots by the extra support, the friendships that are formed and advice, I think people really appreciate that, and
Yeah,
um, you know everyone's happy, which is really
yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Do you think the I want to talk about the challenges, but before that, I wanted to ask you the ups and downs. Do you feel like they hit you more now that your store is also your passion, one of your hobby, than when you were like working for Platypus?
Yeah, so I feel actually really humbled to be in this position because I don't I don't work. I don't work a day
Mm,
in my life because I love what it's actually a cheesy saying, but if you love what you do every day, it's not working.
mm,
And that's actually how I feel. So for me, it's just like waking up and I got things to do. I got tasks, I got goals I want to achieve, and I'm really lucky to be in that position to do something that I love. Where when I was working at Vodafone and other retail shops, it definitely felt like a job. Um, 9 to 5, which is actually it's a good routine to get into. But now I'm working. Now I don't have a 9 to 5. I have a
mm.
24-hour thing because I'm always thinking about work and what we can do, responding to messages on Instagram, and there's always ideas coming up. So I
Yeah.
guess that's one of the not downfalls, but that's just one of the sides to being a business owner is you're always on the books. Always looking at what you can do next.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that leads to the initial question. I was like, what are the challenges that you personally face, and also what kind of challenges does a store face as well?
Yeah. So I think if there weren't no challenges, we wouldn't be a business. There's challenges every single day in anything. Some of the challenges, I guess, as a business, especially for FPV, is the fast nature of the parts, how quickly they change.
Hmm.
Especially being in Australia, we're always maybe one month or so behind what America and Europe are doing.
Hmm.
So trends in FPV change so quickly. So it's trying to foresee what trends are coming up, so then we can predict, or it's trying to buy fresh parts always to keep up with the trends. But that's always a challenge with our shop, especially.
Hmm.
Um, and then yeah, you got your everyday challenges of packing orders, making sure it goes out to the right people, which is important.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, there's so many. I can't even
Yeah.
pinpoint it. I could talk all day, which challenges are. But I think as a business, it's keeping up with the trends.
The trends. Yeah, I'm not surprised by this answer. I wonder, is it still going crazy? Like, what's the not life expectancy, but you know what I mean, like the shelf expectancy of a product these days. Like if we're talking about, I like talking about cameras because for me they're essential to FPV. So whether it's digital, maybe not digital, I'm still curious. Actually, I'm curious about both. Like digital and analog cameras. Like how long did it take for them to be replaced by the V2? You know.
Yeah, so we won't even talk too much about HD. That was a crazy time because it changes so quickly.
Yes, that's true.
Um, yeah, so life is, we're very lucky because we're not dealing with food and produce. I
Yeah.
can't imagine how Woolies and stuff
Oh,
do it. That's a different world.
yes.
Actually have a good the shop down the IGA down the road. I talked to the owner. We've become good
Hmm.
friends, and he's always telling me how stressed he is because expiry dates and before dates, and that's I'm like, you know what? I didn't think about that because that's not a problem we have to face in our business because we don't have expiry dates.
Yeah. Thank
Um,
God.
thank God. Yeah,
Your drone stops flying, on the
expiry date.
2nd of June. That's it. And you're
It
like,
just it just falls down out of the sky. You're flying and well.
no.
But I guess the main part's electronics. Especially with gyros and the chip shortages and stuff, the electronics change a bit.
Hmm.
Um, uh, motor styles change in trends, and then
Yeah.
also plug and play kits as well, or ready to fly kits change a lot
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
You have and we find that's very brand as well. So like you have iFlight that's trending. Everyone wants to buy an iFlight. Cool. We get a lot of iFlight stuff in, and then people on YouTube say try the Jep RC, and then Jep RC
Mm.
goes famous, and we're like, and then everyone calls up saying, "Do you have the Jep RC?" I'm like, "We just bought a bunch of iFlight stuff." So that's that time being behind, with the trends.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, it changes so quickly.
Yeah. So you said also the fact we're in Australia, we're always a little bit behind. Is there anything else that is like a bit of a downside of being based in Australia for FPV store?
Not not really. I guess not downside. Our market is smaller compared
Mm.
to America and Europe. Naturally,
Yeah.
America's population is 300 plus million, and we've got a small population of 24 million, but that's okay. We make do because Australia is a big hobby country, so we love to do stuff that makes us happy,
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's not a problem. No, I think it's a really cool place to be a shop in Australia. Something I learned, especially when I know we're going to touch base on it later on, is when I went to China for a trip, is a lot of the technology and software is developed in Australia. So
Oh.
the Beta Flight team, and the ELRS team, a
Hmm.
lot of that technology is actually innovated and software is innovated in Australia by Australians.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, so it was actually a really cool moment because I'm there talking to a lot of the manufacturers, and I felt quite proud because here they're saying a lot of the soft it's being developed in Australia, but then it's getting sold America, Europe, everywhere else. So Australia is really leading the way in development, which is really cool.
That's
For the,
really cool.
yeah,
So you learned that during your recent trip, the trip you took last month.
yeah, correct. I learned
Wow.
that when I was talking to a few of the manufacturers, which was really cool. Because I knew a lot of it was happening in Australia. I
Hmm.
just didn't realize myself the quantity, or how much it was making an impact. And to find out that it's like a lot of it is all here, it was a really cool feeling.
For sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not Australian yet, but I'm proud that, I live in the country that, does this kind of things for their hobby. So
Oh,
that's
it's the
great.
best. And we got the best nature, all the cinematic guys going out to especially in Sydney, we got the Blue Mountains, out west.
Yeah.
We got Tasmania, has
Mm.
a lot of cool spots. It's just, yeah, a lot of cool places to fly here. So it's really cool. I love it. This is home.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. FPV in Australia is great, and sometimes it's funny because people in Europe and the US, they all have these abandoned places, which, buildings, which is a lot harder to find in Australia because everything gets, put down and then something
Yeah.
new is built. And but these people are like, oh my god, you can fly there, and they're talking about nature, and we're like, oh my god, you have these abandoned buildings. Like, you always want what you don't have, but I'm so
Yeah.
grateful for
We,
what we have here.
we
Yeah.
have the best beaches and everything. So all the,
Yeah.
like as soon as you see beach, FPV cinematic on the beach, you know that it's probably done in Australia because we got the best beaches and everything. It's really cool.
That's very true.
We're just so far away from everybody. That's it.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing. Like, if you're introvert, you're just like, yeah, that's fine. I don't need to
Yeah,
see
yeah.
everybody.
It's home. It's Australia's so big as well. It's yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your trip a bit because when we were planning the podcast episode, we were like, yeah, yeah, let's meet on Friday. And then you're like, actually, next week I'm going to this big trip and maybe we should talk about this when I come back instead. And I'm like, yeah, sure. So I don't
Yeah,
even know actually what you've done. I've seen some stories and you in photos with people, but that's all I know. So why did you go there and what did you do?
yeah. So I went to China 2 weeks ago. I was there
Mm-hmm.
for 3 weeks. I went there actually a month ago now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a lot of it. So my partner is actually Australian born Chinese. Her name's
Oh.
Belle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is actually my second time going to China, which is really cool. We went back in 2019 prior to
Mm-hmm.
COVID.
Mm-hmm.
That's because of the whole lockdown and international border closure, etc. We couldn't go for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
And then recently, China opened up their borders to foreigners to come visit. And first and foremost, Belle and I were like, look, we need to go see she has her grandparents and stuff in a city called Guangzhou in China.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like, hey, we need to go see him. We haven't seen him in 4 years. So
Yeah.
I said, it's actually really cool because this is the first time, last time we went in 2019, I didn't have Mantis FPV. So I went there just to visit family,
Yeah.
which was really fun back then. But then this time I was actually even more excited because I'm like, that I have so many friends now over there, which
Yeah.
their city is not too far from where I am. So I'm like, this is awesome. I can go see the family and then I can spend a week traveling and meeting all my friends in manufacturers,
Yeah.
which was an awesome experience. So yeah, we went there. Really hot and humid.
Oh.
The weather.
Yeah.
uh, right now it's super hot. You're basically standing and you start sweating because it's so
What?
humid. Yeah,
Oh my
but
god.
now it's freezing here, so I don't know which one I prefer because it's so cold now here. But
Yeah.
culture shock. It's a big culture shock.
Okay.
The life over there, it's so cool. It's very fast paced. A lot of
Mm.
people.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I was saying before, we got 24 million here.
Mm-hmm.
One city over there would have 25 million in one
Oh
city.
my god.
Yeah.
That's so
Um,
much.
yeah, it was really cool. A lot of eating. I'm not going to talk to
Yum.
you about how much weight I've put on since I've come back. The listeners probably don't have to know.
Yeah.
A lot of awesome food, everyday eating food, dumplings, yum cha in the morning.
Hmm.
I love, basically all the cuisines that they cook there. Um, this is so much. I just keep talking. I need to breathe.
No, I want to. Yeah, no, I'm really glad. Like, and I haven't myself traveled overseas since before the pandemic. My last trip was in 2018. So anybody who's talking to me about like a recent trip they've done, I'm like all ears. I'm like,
It
yeah,
was
please
it
tell
was
me.
just so nice. Like I actually forgot how much I missed traveling. Because being
Mm,
being like not going for the last 4 years, you forget how much fun it is. Catching the international flight,
yeah,
going over the waters, and being on it. China's 8 hours, 9 hours away. So not too bad. But just
yeah,
that whole experience, going through
yeah.
customs and it's just that whole travel experience, which is really cool.
Mm,
But once I was over there, yeah, it was so much fun. It was just nice to get away from work and I felt good because the boys here were looking after everything, which was really nice. And I
yeah.
could just go over there and have some fun for 3 weeks while I was there.
Yeah, definitely. But then
Yeah,
it wasn't just fun because did you work at all? Or was that like when you met the people
it
from the
wasn't work.
FPV?
It wasn't work.
Ah,
It was fun. So we went out for food, lunches. Like this, is what I was saying. It's such a great community because everyone's friends. So
wow.
yeah, so I went before going there. I actually went to Beijing for a week, for a few days, which was really cool. Went to Beijing, and so again, so many people and so many sights to see. I saw the Great Wall of China, which was really cool.
Wow.
Um, did all the like typical tourist stuff when I was over there. And
What's a
then
typical tourist stuff then?
yeah, yeah, so going to the Great Wall of China, for example, that's
Ah,
great.
yes, yes.
Touristy. A lot of temples, a lot of they've got a lot of history in China. So going
Yeah.
to a lot of the museums and learning about their culture um and just the history was so fascinating as well.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, again, more food. So just so much food to eat, which is
So
really
good.
cool. Yeah,
Ah, this is not what I thought you were doing, and I'm really happy this is actually what you did because all you said on our quick DMs was like, I'm going to China to visit suppliers, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's really cool, but
yeah.
actually, it's not suppliers. You saw friends and you ate food, and that's
Yeah, and I was it
amazing.
was, it was the best. And towards the end, there, I went that last week to visit them. So they're based in a city called Shenzhen, which is about a 2 hour drive from where I was staying with Bell's family,
Hmm.
in Guangzhou. So 2.5 hour drive, um, and yeah, that started the trip because it's so cool. I've been talking to a lot of these manufacturers, such as or brands, Foxia,
Mm,
Diatone, Axis
yeah,
Flying, Dogcom. There's a few there.
yeah,
Radio Master. Who else did I visit?
yeah.
HD0, and there's a few. Yeah,
It's
but
pretty cool.
I've been talking to them for the last 3 4 years since starting Mantis, and it it was so weird to see them in person, which was a good weird, not a bad weird, a good weird. And I kept saying to him like I've been talking to you for the last 3 years on email and all that stuff. It's nice to actually put a face behind the name and
Very
behind the
true.
brand. Yeah.
Mm,
So it was
yeah.
really cool, and they were so friendly to me. They were so welcoming. Like I was actually very nervous prior to meeting him. I couldn't go to sleep because I'm like, what can I expect?
Yeah.
There's a bit of a perhaps language barrier, which is no problem because my partner Belle speaks Cantonese fluently, which is really nice. So that helped out a
Okay.
lot.
Mm.
And yeah, they were so welcoming. I think they were probably more nervous for me to go say
Yeah.
hello. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Was your partner like? What did she think of this community? Like, what does she think of that in
uh,
general?
super supportive. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we talked about it before. She thinks we're all a bit nerdy, which is a good nerdy, But no, she's actually, she's a big part for my support as well, So
Hmm.
I guess if we're talking about team, you got your work team, but then you got your supportive team, and
Yeah.
she's been a big part to help, me and the support of Manta. So she's the number one fan, definitely. Yeah,
That's so good.
and I
Yeah.
think
Because
she
yeah. Go on.
no, I think she really like. I think she saw how awesome the community was once we actually visited the brand,
Mm.
especially in Shenzhen, because they just they were so welcoming and so friendly. I think, um, yeah, she was just surprised the scale of what they were manufacturing and how busy FPV is. which was really
Mm,
cool.
it is. It can be. Yeah, and that's good that she got to see that part of the hobby as well, not just like people, nerds in parks with goggles on. Like that's what Chad Nowak used to say. We're just nerds in parks.
Yeah,
Uh, we
well, and
actually are
we are.
nerds.
I
Yeah, and we get
I'm proud.
outside.
I'm proud. I'm proud of it.
Yeah.
That's you got to be unique to be an FPV. You got to have a bit of a geeky side, and you might have a cinematic. We all share a common connection. I think that's why the community is like so close together.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that trip was really fun. Again, a lot
Hmm.
of them kept taking me out to food, come eat. We wanted. They were actually very worried that I don't eat much food. They're like, I'm nervous. I'm nervous to order you food. 'Cause I'm a foreigner. So they're being careful. I'm like, don't be nervous. Order me your local food. I want to taste everything. I have a good stomach. I can eat whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was really, yeah. So we ate a lot of their local food.
Yum.
I went to visit Access Flying up in a city in Nanchang.
Hmm.
That's about 4 hours bullet train. So I caught a train up to visit
Oh,
them.
cool.
Spent a full day with them. He took me around his whole city, showing me his factory, showing me his office. Meeting the
Wow.
team. But then they're so friendly. He literally, him and his team. So his name's Anki
Hmm.
and Vivian and Lucy, three of them. They took me around their whole city to basically give me a whole tour. So
Wow.
I felt very honored because they spent the whole day, to take me all these places. Had dinner, and yeah, it was actually sad to leave because I'm like, I wish I could spend longer with you. It's a friend. I'm leaving so soon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially when you're on this trip like that, and you said you had to see family, and 3 weeks it sounds like heaps, but in fact, it's never enough. Like you always wish
No,
you had one more day everywhere, like.
I think one more week would have been fantastic. I would have loved to spend another week there. But
Yes.
you're absolutely right. I don't think it would ever be enough because, like you said, the time just went by so quickly. It's so busy, and actually, it
Mm.
wasn't. It wasn't a holiday where you go on a beach and relax and stuff. It was a holiday just. It was an urban holiday, going away to more chaos with all the people and all the food. And I think
Yeah.
I was clocking in maybe 14,000, 15,000 steps a day. Um,
Wow.
little walking. That's probably why maybe I didn't put on too much weight because I kept walking. You know.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Um, what did you think when you saw FPV factories? I know it was not the main thing you've done when you met
Yeah.
your friends, but I'm curious to know.
That's what I thought. Yeah, sorry, my watch is talking to me. um, you know what? I was actually not overwhelmed. Overwhelmed, not probably the right word, but I was when you're here in Australia, you picture these brands and you think you have a picture of what you think of them. Diatone, Foxy.
Hmm.
You start to see the brand, but then when I visited them, they're just. I know it's weird to say, and it's not normal. They're just normal people.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean? And
yeah.
real people with real families and real goals that they have to do and all that stuff. And that actually gave me, as a friend, I connected to them, which was really good. But also as a business now, I feel more happy to buy products from these companies that I met because I know who it is behind it. I know
Mm,
it's going to a real uh, it's real people behind it,
yeah.
which is really cool. Um, a lot is happening. They're very busy with manufacturing.
Hmm.
Uh, it's super cool to see the passion behind what they do.
Hmm.
So, like I was saying before, we all share a bit of nerdiness because over there, they're not just manufacturing it for the sake of, doing it for business. Sure, again, business is important, but there's a lot of passion. So the guys that are doing it are from FPV backgrounds. They love and enjoy the the community, and
Hmm.
you can see that in the products that they're developing as well. So
Wow.
that was really cool to see that they're not just random people making stuff and sending it all across the world. It's you got real guys that love this community and love this sport. I actually call FPV a sport now because the racing and all that stuff,
Yeah.
and they're innovating for it, which is really cool.
Mm. Oh, that
Yeah.
makes me happy somehow. Like, because we just
Oh,
talked about your relationship with the people who come to your shop, and interact with you. But knowing that, like the step before that, so
yeah,
manufacturers, it's also passionate people. Even though you can tell, like, for some people, like I'm thinking of Zong from
yeah,
HQ,
yeah, yeah,
or even in his own way, Trappy from Team Black Sheep,
yeah,
in his own like flamboyant, not flamboyant, but like very
No, they got
engaged way.
the energy.
Yes, the energy. So it's good to know that it's all across the board, even though you sort of know it.
Yeah.
It's good to hear it like from you. So
And I was,
that's
I
nice.
was there. It was so weird. A lot of it was drinking tea because they love tea, and I love tea as well. So there's this weird like sitting in Foxy's office drinking tea with Libby, who I think anyone that buys a lot from Foxy or on social media, Libby is one of the head sales and marketing ladies there.
Yeah.
And so I'm like. I'm like, Libby, I'm here with you. How weird is this? And and she started laughing. And she's like, yeah, it is super strange. It doesn't feel real. But it was like a really nice feeling to see, to be there and see a lot of these companies' passion and innovation for what we do here, which is really
Yeah.
cool.
That's so good that you got to do this because like how often do you interact with these people? Almost like every month for
Every,
sure.
every day,
Every
a couple of
day.
days. Yeah, yeah. So relationship, especially for me, like it's not. We sometimes just email saying what new products are coming out, or on they're very active on social media and Instagram, so it's always commenting on each other's posts and just keeping up with with what they're doing. So yeah, FPV is a unique community because it's not just work. It's
Mm.
there's a big community aspect to it, that's what makes it really fun. So that's what I was saying. I was visiting brands there, but I was actually visiting a lot of friends, which is really cool.
That's
Yeah,
so good. That's so
yeah,
good. Well done on sharing this like and doing this. I'm really happy to hear that because for my like my own experience because I worked only for about a year in that hobby store. Um, it was my little shop within the shop was too small to place big orders and things like that. So I would
yeah.
talk to people only like once a month to do an order but they would still remember me. Sometimes they would send email and be like, hey, we know you have a store in Melbourne, like do you want this? And
That's really cool.
it was really cool, but I didn't get what you get like with interacting with people every day. Obviously that would be a very different type of relationship to suppliers, but it's
Yeah.
it's almost
Well,
like you said, it's not just suppliers, it becomes the whole community.
yeah, and look, this has been 3 years now in the making. The first year was tough as like any business. The first year of any business is very tough.
Yeah.
Um, orders. We just kept doing our best. So we were focused on what we wanted to do. We're focused on adding value to customers, and I think I think that's I've just described every business. If you as long as you provide value to customers and have a good relationship with people, naturally
Yeah.
people will just start wanting to support you because they can see the real you behind the people behind the brand.
Yeah.
And actually, as I'm talking to you, I'm linking that now because I'm saying to you, I want to buy from certain brands because I've met the people. Maybe that's very similar, vice versa, to the customers that I've established friendships with here as well.
Yeah, totally.
Um,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, so uh, actually had a very Kelvin and I had a very humbling moment. Maybe 2 months ago. We're sitting in the office here. Customers were walking in. We had Zeph in the repair room with a customer doing a repair. Felix was in the sales in the our shop's actually at the back of the place. So
Hmm.
Felix was at the back of the shop with a customer, and it was very busy, and everyone seemed like they were doing something. And Kelvin and I just looked at each other because he was just over there. Just looked at him, and we both smiled. We're like, wow, this has come a long way from where we started to
Hmm.
now. Yeah, it was a bit of a proud moment,
Wow,
to have
that's
that
good.
feeling. And I wish I had a photo of our stock. When we first started, we literally had one shelf. Bunnings, those Bunnings shelves.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, we just had one shelf of stock. That's it. That's all we had when we
Wow.
first started. But
Yeah.
to us at the time, that's like, wow, look how much stock we have. But in reality, everyone's probably like, where's your stock? Um, to now what we have now, it's really yeah. I'm proud as a business owner to
Hmm.
see that growth as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's really good you say that because that leads me to almost my final questions. I always try to keep the episode around 1 hour, but
Okay,
you've done well.
have we clocked over? Okay, we're nearly there.
We're nearly there. Um, yes. What's your goal? Like your personal goal, but also I guess the shop goal, the team goal for like the short term, and ideally
Yeah.
what would be for the long term.
Yeah. Goals. I think it's super important to set goals. We're always setting goals because what we say is a business is a living thing. It's like a child.
Mm,
You always got to feed it. You always got to come up with new ideas, because if you don't, then that's how, I guess, businesses die, when there's no more love put into it. So
yeah.
I guess as a short term goal for Mantis, it's really just expanding our range
Hmm.
in stock. Always trying to get in new products that are relevant to what pilots want now, which is
Hmm.
really cool. Um, Customer engagement. So building continuously to build relationships. We're looking at maybe doing more events where we can bring people together, and
Hmm.
uh, for people to make friendships amongst themselves, which is really cool. Um, More middle to long term goals. We're working on a spec racing league.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know what spec racing is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like what they're doing in America, like DRL and 533, etc. We would love to do something similar in Australia.
Awesome.
So that's a project which we're working on, and it might be a few months away, which is really exciting. Um, and long term goal is to continue growing the business, loving
Yeah.
what I do. I
Yeah.
don't plan on stopping anytime soon. I think
Hmm.
it's a lot of passion, and uh, there's a lot of room to grow. I think FPV is growing every day. People see how cool it is and how fun it is.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think just to keep growing it as much as we can, and focus on our own race, and do what we can to bring value to the community.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really happy we have a store like yours in Australia. It's
Thank you
really
so much.
good,
Thank
and
you.
after this talk, I feel like you just gained another customer. Like I'm just gonna be like, you
No,
know.
thank you so much. I'm really happy to jump on this. This is actually my third podcast, and you said it to me right before we started. You said you're going to warm up towards the end there, and I actually feel really comfortable now. I wish I felt like this when we first started, because
At the
I'm
start.
I'm answering questions a lot more just natural now, where I was a bit nervous before, to be honest.
It didn't show, and you know what that means? That means you need to come back for an episode 2 another time, and we
Definitely.
talk about more in depth. I really like,
Yeah.
cutting it a bit short sometimes, because then the guest is like, oh, I can think of what they would have said, and we can talk about it the next time.
Yeah.
And also people don't they're like, oh no, not yet. You need to create that little,
A little
oh
bit of a
no.
cliffhanger, a bit of a Netflix series.
Exactly. I'd
Awesome.
be really keen to have you again more on maybe technical side of the hobby, even like
Yeah,
talking
definitely.
about more those trends would be very interesting. I feel like because I'm currently building a mini series of episodes about
Yeah.
HD. So
Okay. Awesome.
the first one is just a general one we discussed with Lexi, so
Yeah.
Mayan Hai, and a friend of mine, a local here. We just discussed about what we were thinking as of May June 2023 of HD in general, as
Yeah.
like you know
Oh,
random
there's so much.
general pilots.
Walk snail, DJI, HD0.
Yes.
There's yeah, the conversation will. But you know what? What quickly before I won't go too long. It's actually exciting time for HD, because these systems now are sort of set in stone, which is really cool. There was a few
Mm,
months ago, everyone's like, "What's happening with the HD world?" But now I think HD is getting more comfortable. It's coming in its own
yeah.
category. Yeah,
S-
so a lot to
s-
do there.
Yeah, so I would really be keen to have your opinion because we've done a whole episode as well, which might be published by then, but with someone else about DJI Avata on its own,
Yeah,
just about this. And I'm planning an episode with Bot Grinder about the ethical systems, like the ethics behind
yeah,
different systems and things like that. So then
that
it would
sounds
be
really
very
cool.
nice. Yeah, I hope I'm actually interested in those topics. So I hope my audience is too. But having you like back on the podcast, not just to talk about digital, but maybe the kind of trends that you've seen come and go, the one that I've stuck around. I would be super interested to talk about this.
Sounds like fun. 100%.
Cool. Well, I guess this is the end.
Yeah,
No, but
all good things have to come to an end eventually, and
eventually, yes. So if
no,
people want to find Mantis FPV or find you, like what do they need to do? Where do they need to go?
yeah. So we're most active on Instagram, and that's where we
Hmm.
share a lot of our stuff. So our Instagram is Mantis FPV AU.
Hmm.
So find us on Instagram, and our website. Really, that's where we're active mainly on the two.
Okay, cool.
I basically I'm on the Instagram page, so any questions or anything like that, I'll be the one responding back and helping out as best as I can.
Cool. And thanks for your service. You have answered me several times already, so thank you for helping.
No, no worries. My pleasure. And thank you for having me on today. It was really fun. And yeah, I look forward to doing it again soon.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. And thanks everybody for listening and watching. We have video now. And to this episode, if you like the podcast, you can give us good ratings. You can share it with your friends, with your family, if they're also into FPV. We have Patreon if you want to support us and help bring video to you, because, this is with Patreon that I've been able to start doing a bit of video on the podcast. And that's pretty much it. Thanks a lot.
Awesome.
We will come back soon. Thanks again,
Thanks,
Adriano.
guys. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no worries at all. And yeah, we will talk to you soon in about 2 weeks' time. Take care.
Okay, bye.